What happens after an eviction? This is going to be for my tenants and my landlords, and that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. What happens after an eviction? Let me say something that might surprise you. Eviction doesn't just affect the tenant, it affects the landlord too, financially, legally, long term. So tonight we're talking about what really happens after the eviction is over for both sides. Because once court is done, the real consequences begin. So tonight, come on in. We are talking about what happens after eviction. So this was part of my Have You Paid Your Rent series. We talked about what happens if you don't pay your rent, what happens when you get a 3-day notice, what happens after you get the 3-day notice and you get sent up for eviction or unlawful detainer. And now we're going to be talking about what happens when the eviction is over and you have to move out. The sheriff then came and you have to move out. That's for the tenants. And then we're going to be talking about landlords, what that means for you. So that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. So for those who don't know me, I'm Itanya. I go by Real Estate by Itanya. I have over 25 years of property management experience, 7 years as a licensed realtor, and I also manage a building in the Bay Area of 39 units. I focus on housing, clarity, breaking down landlord-tenant education, real estate, and how that affects both sides. And I really believe in understanding the system so you could move smarter. Whether you're a tenant or a landlord or just a real estate professional, understanding that housing laws in California is going to help everyone move. So tonight we're talking about what happens after eviction. Come on. So if you have any questions, you could go ahead and post it in. But I'm just going to go ahead and get into it. Let me just give a little disclaimer before we start. I am not an attorney. This is not legal advice. I'm just sharing educational information based on my real estate and property management experience. If you need legal advice, I do recommend you consult an attorney in your area. So let's talk about it. What happens? So this is going to be closing my series. Over the past weeks, we talked about, like I said, the 3-day notices. We talked about the eviction timeline. We talked about what it kind of costs to do an eviction. And tonight, we're closing the series on what happens next. So I'm going to start with my tenant perspective, right? So if you stayed versus if you moved. So if you moved out because you got a court judgment that was entered, that is different than having a judgment on record. So if a judgment was entered, it may show in public court records. If money is owed and you were sent to collections, that could affect your credit. A money judgment could follow you if it's not resolved. There is a difference between filing a judgment. Know which one applies to you. Landlord perspective. So for my landlords, winning a judgment does not automatically mean you get paid. So you took your tenant, you did the unlawful detainer, you took your tenant, you guys went to court, you even maybe had a trial, and you won it. That doesn't mean you get paid, right? So landlords, you still have to attempt the collection, decide whether to send it to collections, find someone who's willing to take it for you to even send them to collections, which is a whole nother thing. Absorb potential financial loss. And evictions are expensive for landlords too. Legal fees, lost rent, vacancy, time, turnover costs. So I said this in previous video. It's better if you can for the landlord and the tenant for you guys to come with an agreement that you both could agree on. And that agreement could even be with you being able to stay in the unit. But evictions are costly for both people, even for renters. An eviction is costly for you because you got to relocate, you got to find another place, you got to put down another deposit, you have to pay rent. Then you have to hope that the collection isn't on your record, because then that's going to prevent other people from wanting to rent to you. It's costly. It is costly. Don't gamble with that. Don't gamble. All right. Alameda County Settlement Court. So I have a previous video on this. I'm going to suggest you go back and look at it. If you're in Alameda County, that's in Northern California. Alameda County, they're a little beast of its own, right? So they have something called settlement court. So before you go to trial, you have a settlement court. I recommend that everyone goes to settlement court. It's going to save you time, energy, and money, right? So settlement court in Alameda County is, it's important to understand that it's called settlement court, which typically happens before a full trial. So this gives both parties the opportunity to reach an agreement before going fully through the trial. I did a separate video explaining Alameda County Settlement Court, and I believe other courts have something similar to this, which I think theirs is a little bit more easier and streamlined than this. But I did a separate video on what Alameda County Settlement Court is. If you're local, go back, take a look at that breakdown. And if you're not local, but you're in California, find out from the courthouse if they have something similar, or from an attorney if they have something similar. And this is the reason why, because it's just going to save everybody time. This is the opportunity for a tenant to find out, like, look, can I stay? You come up with the agreement. Can I stay if I pay this? Or I could be out by this time. Please don't put this on my record. And I know sometimes we be like, I don't know what it is, but we don't want to settle, or we want to try to go through with, or we want to prove our case, or prove this, or prove that. And just ask yourself, is it really worth it? Because if you're a tenant, is it worth this being on your record? Is a possible eviction, or even collection could stop it if, most of the time, I'm coming from the landlord perspective. If I'm a landlord and I see on your record that you owe another apartment complex money, that's a red flag for me. It's like, okay, they're not paying their bill. Now, it could be something where it could have been the landlord's fault. There was a slumlord. It could be anything. But if they had the ability to put that on your record, guess who it's messing up? It's messing you up as the tenant. So if you could avoid the eviction, avoid it. Okay? If you could come with the agreement, do the agreement. And landlords, it's expensive for you too. I told you our attorney said that settlement court is trial is $5,000 a day. A day. And sometimes those trials could go longer. They get dismissed. They get the dates get they get reassigned. They get pushed back. They don't happen. But all that time while that's happening, the tenant is in your unit not paying rent. So you have to do these different extensions. Now, me personally, I've never been through trial. We always settle the court. Our attorney's like, look, we could do whatever you want to do, but you're paying me $5,000 a day. Is it worth it? And for us, it's not worth it. It's like, look, let's cut our losses and let's move on. We got our unit back, and we're usually happy with that. But it's some people, they're not, and they're going to go through the whole thing. And I'm not saying that landlords necessarily win when they go to trial, because most of the time when you go to trial, it's composed of renters. So, but I'm also not saying renters go to trial because you're going to automatically win. You may not win, especially if it's a clear case. You didn't pay rent. Now then, well, I didn't pay rent because they didn't repair this, or I didn't pay rent because the landlord didn't do this. So now both of you guys, it's a burden of proof, and you got to prove your case. Whether you have a case or not, if you could avoid eviction court, avoid it. I'm not a real estate attorney. I don't typically give advice. I'm just telling you what I know. It's not worth it for either party. It is not. Anywho, so for tenants, settlement agreements could allow additional time to move, reduce the amount that you owe, set up payment arrangements, potentially avoid a full trial. Showing up matters. Ignoring the court does not help you. I'm not going to go what I talked about before about settlement court, because I went on a tangent last week, y'all, on that. So I'm not going to do it again, but I am going to have it posted about settlement court. But this is the only tidbit that I'm going to say. I have had my tenants where we wipe their record clean, what they owe. So I talked about on previous videos the timeline that it takes for eviction. In California, it could take anywhere from 60 to 120 days just to get to the eviction. That don't include the lockout. That's just getting us to the settlement court in Alameda County, or getting to court, period. But I have seen my tenants, we wiped their records. Some of them got their deposit back even. Some of them got more days to move before the sheriff came. So it's you could do a lot in a settlement court. But you don't have to get to the settlement court if you and your landlord could just come up with an agreement, because evictions are costly. I believe I pay anywhere from $26.50 to $32.50 without a trial, just for them to send paperwork, do the court thing. It's expensive. And then if you're a small landlord, that's a lot of money. And then on top of that, not getting rent. So for my landlords, what settlement court could be beneficial to you for? So it may allow you to get your property back sooner. And, to be real, y'all, if you're a tenant and you listening, really, at this point, all we want is our property back. And we just give us our property back, and don't destroy the property, because I know that some tenants get mad or petty or angry and they want to destroy the landlord property back. And the only thing is, what I'm going to say about that is, you reap what you sow. You reap what you sow. If you that angry and you want to do that to someone's property, believe me, you will reap what you sow. Anyway, back to my landlords. Settlement court. Settlement court could be beneficial too. It may allow you to get your property back sooner, avoid full trial attorney fees. I don't know how much your attorney charge, but mine's told us $5,000 a day. Reduce extended vacancy time, potentially recover some of your money owed if the tenant is willing and able to pay. So trial costs money. They cost your time. There's a whole bunch of back and forth. And if you win, you still have to, the collection is not guaranteed. Sometimes a structured agreement is more financially efficient than going all the way through trial. So I'm going to pause just for a second. Let me just make sure I don't have any questions. I did see one, but okay. Thanks everyone for joining. Okay. All right. I'm not seeing any questions, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep on going. All right. Okay. What documents should you keep? So if you this is after the eviction has happened. So for my tenants, what you should keep is you want to keep your court paperwork. You want to keep proof of payment if any payments were made. You want your settlement agreements. You want your proof of move out, communication documents. Your paperwork is your protection. If you think you may lose the paper, scan it, keep it in your phone, because there may be one day where a landlord may be, I see this eviction on your record. Can you show me proof that it was settled or what happened? You may have to pull that up and show it for you to get that apartment or even a house. This could affect your ability to purchase a home too, even with that eviction on your record. I know. That's what I'm saying. If you could avoid it, avoid it. Don't take it sitting down. And for my landlords, what you should keep, copies of the notice, proof of service, payment ledger, photos of the property condition, all communication. Documentation protects landlords just as much. So, you may need to show that one day. Or you may decide, you found a collection company, you want to send them up for collection if they owed you money, if it went through trial or whatnot. So you want to be able to keep all these documents that will be asked from you. Sorry. Explaining rental history. So, okay, tenants, you went to eviction court, it's now on your record. What can we do? There's things you could do. Do not lie. There's been times where I've ran people credit that was trying to apply for a unit and it's on their biggest day. And then they don't never tell me about it. Then I have to say, hey, what is this? And then they want to explain stuff to me. But at that point, you tried to hide it. And at that point, for me, it's not much I could do about it. But you do not want to avoid the conversation. You want to be brief and factual. So an example of that could be, yes, there was an eviction filed during a hardship period. The balance has since been resolved, and I could provide documentation for that. And you just want to be confident, and accountability matters. Tell it like it is. That was a period in my time. I messed up. It's on my record. I'm not proud of it, but I did resolve it, or I'm working on it. Because ultimately, you need a place to stay. You need a place to stay. And like I said, a lot of times that's red flags, that's automatic denials. It's a lot that happens when that eviction is showing up on your record, or even worse, just a collection. If it's a collection, it's saying you owe this apartment building, red flag, denial in most cases. Back in the day, we could charge a higher deposit. Okay, well, I'm just going to charge you a higher deposit. Well, the beautiful state of California, they said we can't charge more than 1 month's rent of deposit. So that got taken away. So now a lot of people have higher credit standards because we can't charge a higher deposit. So I think some of this stuff's supposed to protect the tenant, but it really doesn't, because on a landlord perspective, and for my landlord, we looking like, well, I'm just going to have higher credit standards if I can't charge a higher deposit. Before, we at least would try to work with the person and help them. But if you got bad credit, that's messing up your ability, and that higher deposit used to help you. But I'm not the law rule maker, so I don't know. But let me just put in a disclaimer. I am not an attorney. This is all just educational information for you from my 25 years in the business of being a property manager, right? And my 7 years as a realtor. Right, for my landlords, explaining the rental history. When you're screening an applicant with an eviction, look at income stability, time that has passed since that eviction been put on their record, whether the balance was resolved, current rental references. Every situation is different. So for my landlords, you give them a chance. See what happens. That don't mean they're a bad person because they have eviction on their record. So give them a chance. Some landlords will give you a chance. And then some of the bigger corporations and companies, it's sometimes a little bit harder for that, because we have certain policies and rules and things we have to go by where it's just an automatic denied, especially if it's showing up on your record. An eviction don't necessarily show up on your record. The way that eviction gets on your record is the landlord actually has to do some extra steps to get that on there. But if he sends you or she sends you into collections, that's where it's like, oh, there's a collection. Oh, that's an apartment building. Oh, they don't pay their rent. That's automatically what we're thinking, right? But that's not necessarily true. So keep the paperwork, be able to defend yourself, let them know why that's on your record. And be honest and truthful and let them know. And then you can say, let me just say this. See, I be going on these tangents sometimes. You can save yourself money if you let them know up front. If you let them know, hey, I was sent into collections to a landlord. This is what happened. I paid it. Here's my proof. I didn't pay it. This is why. You could probably get a little bit more grace, maybe save yourself an application fee if you up front right away. I don't need your life story. Just tell me kind of what happened. I don't need, well, anyway. Avoiding long-term damage, avoiding it. So for my tenants, this is how you could avoid it, right? Pay the judgment if possible. Pay the judgment. Sometimes the courts let you do payment arrangements. Try to get it off your record. I know it wasn't fair. It was this. It was a learning lesson. It was A, B, C, D, E, F. But for your benefit, it's going to benefit you more to pay it if it's on there than to ignore it. Or I'm never paying that. Like I said, it could affect your ability to rent somewhere else, and it will affect your ability to purchase a house. Okay. Set up a payment plan, check your credit, start rebuilding. Eviction hurts more when it's ignored. Okay. So for my landlords, what avoiding long-term damage for the landlords? Court costs, attorney fees, vacancy, turnover expenses. Evictions impact profitability. It impacts profitability. Prevention is always cheaper than eviction. If you could avoid it, talk with the tenant and come up with an arrangement. And if you could avoid the whole eviction process, it really saves time for everybody. And preparing for future housing. So this is kind of my last point. If you have any questions, put them in the comments and I'll answer those. But preparing for future housing for my tenants. Be upfront, provide documentation, improve your income, rebuild your credit. Starting over is not failure, it's starting smarter. And for my landlords preparing for future housing, verify income properly, screen consistently, set clear expectations, document everything, and just know one eviction doesn't mean that everybody is bad or however you want to put it. But just because you got one eviction, sometimes it makes people more cautious. Wow, what if the next person do that, or what if this happened, or what if that happened, and what if they pay their rent on time and everything gets smooth sailing and great? We can't always think the negative, right? We got to see the glass half full, in this business, right? So if you have any questions, go ahead and put it in the comments. I am answering questions. It's educational purpose. I'm not an attorney, but I know quite a bit in California because I've been doing it half my life, right? So that's all I kind of had for you tonight on what happens after the eviction. This is closing my series on Did You Pay Your Rent? Did you pay your rent? I've been talking about it all month. You could go on my page and see different videos that I put on there. If you go to my YouTube channel, Real Estate by Tanya, I put the whole live videos. I post those to my YouTube channel. All the other channels, Instagram and TikTok and Facebook, that you get clips on what I'm talking about. So just my final words that I want to say is eviction does not have to define your future, but how you handle it absolutely does. I always say this, avoidance doesn't solve the issue. It doesn't. You may get to ignore it for a little bit, but eventually it comes back around, right? This series was about understanding the process, protecting yourself, and making informed decisions, whether you're a tenant or a landlord. So next week, I go live every Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I am mostly focused on California housing, education, and clarity on that. But next week, I'm going to shift the conversation slightly. We're going to start talking about what the real estate agents, the realtors, need to understand about tenant placement, about screening, how this ties into consistent income in between sales. Because a lot of agents, what you don't understand is you already do 80% of the work anyway, especially if you're on the sales side. And you just don't realize it. So we're going to shift slightly on that. I'm still going to be doing a portion of housing education because I just believe if both parties is informed, it just makes things smoother. If you understand what your rights are, and landlords, if you understand also the rights, because sometimes we don't keep up with all the current laws. And in California, every year we get probably about 5 to 10 different laws that affects tenant landlord protections, and it's crazy. Property management is not a hobby. This is not something you do just for fun. But so if you're a real estate agent, you definitely want to tune in next week because I'm going to be talking about that. And if you're a landlord, this conversation still matters for you because the right tenant placement on the front end prevents a lot of what we're talking about in this series. So if this was helpful, follow me for your housing clarity, landlord education, and real estate insight. And I just want to say for my renters, I have a page, especially if you in the Bay Area, Northern California. I have a page called Bay Area Rental Match. I list any listings that I have on there, and I usually put my renter education on that page. So Bay Area Rental Match on Instagram. Go ahead and follow me. I'm also on Facebook too. But if you're looking for an apartment or a house, go ahead and check that out. And then because I'm a realtor, I just have to put this plug in because we got the California Dream for All opening back up starting February 24th. So if you are looking to purchase a home and you want $150,000, yes, $150,000 to help you with your down payment for a home. It's a program opening up starting February 24th, and I believe it goes to, I don't think it's a whole month. It ends in March, but you have to be ready. So if you feel like you're ready, you have the income and you have the credit, I could hook you up with a lender to get you qualified so you could be ready once it opens up on February 24th. It's limited amount of funds. I believe it's going to be like a pool. Everyone's not going to be selected. There's also some qualifications you have to meet. You have to be a first-time homeowner, or if your parents owned a home, one person could have owned a home, maybe not the other one. So it's some qualification, but it's $150,000. So if you qualify, you're looking to buy the California Dream for All. It looks like it's been coming back maybe every year, where they're opening up the pool. And the purpose of that is really to get more minorities to get homes, but it's not open just to minorities. But it's really program was more so you could get home ownership. So if you're interested in that, I'm going to post a flyer about it. Send me a DM. Check me out. And then if you're not following me, I'm on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, Real Estate by Tanya. And I come on live every Thursday, and I post videos all throughout the week. And this was like my life, leases, and laws series that I'm doing. So I want to thank you for being a part of the Did You Pay Your Rent series. And I'm going to end that. And thank you for people that's joined and being in tune. I'm just going to make sure I don't have any questions, which I don't think I do. But if you do end up getting questions, you could put it in the comment section or send me a DM, and I will do my best to answer those questions. And then if you feel like you need more clarity on your situation, I do have housing clarity calls that I offer, and I'm going to post my Stan store. It's just stan.store/real estate by Tanya. And you could schedule a housing clarity call, and we could talk about your situation. Not from a legal perspective, but from an educational perspective, so you could be well informed. So thank you for tuning in tonight, and I look forward to seeing you again next week.